Welcome to Out of the Box with Christine, the podcast for conscious entrepreneurs. Are you willing to step into your greatness? Are you ready to shine? Well, get ready, Truth Seeker. You're in for an amazing ride. And now, here's the host of the show, Christine Blosdale.
Welcome back to Out of the Box with Christine. I am your host, Christine Blosdale, your expert authority coach. And I am so happy about today because we're going to be talking about a subject that is near and dear to my heart. I like to say that I've dabbled in astrology and I have some good friends that are astrologers. But one of my favorite subjects is using your astrological superpowers in business. And how to harness that wonderful, unique thing about you, that when you were born, when the planets were in a certain place in the sky and you were here, that give you some incredible little superpowers that you could use in business. And so I'm super excited about today's show because my guest is Laurie Rivers, who is a consulting astrologer. She's been doing it for decades. And she is here to talk about how we can tap into our superpowers. And also, maybe if we're very nice to Laurie, she can also tap into what's going on in the cosmos right now, post-COVID, right? Interesting financial situations going on. So welcome to Out of the Box with Christine, Laurie.
Thank you so much for having me, Christine. I'm so excited to be here.
Me too. Well, first, the big question too is, the first question is, what is your star sign? What's your star sign? Because see, I said that. No, sun sign. What's your sun sign?
Sun sign. Well, I'm a Cancerian.
You're a water sign,
and
like me.
I've got a Scorpio rising
Awesome.
and a Libra moon.
So wow. So your psycho is balanced.
A little bit. No, I'm a little radical and always have been.
Love that.
But in a polite and kind of way.
Yes. Well, and yes, I do. I love water signs because we get each other. We understand each other. And I think I sent an email confirmation. I think I sent it to you. I said, I have 5 planets in Scorpio. And,
oh, wow. Nice.
Yes. Sun, moon, rising, something else that I can't exactly remember. But my Venus is in Libra.
Oh, very nice.
Yes, so I have some balance a little bit.
There you go. Yeah. I love that. No wonder you're good. You're a good host.
Thank you. I am. I like to entertain.
There you go.
So let's talk about the work that you do with your clients. Somebody comes to you and they're, let's say, an entrepreneur or a coach or a solopreneur, and they're like, you know what, Laurie, things are just not working out for me. I don't know what's going on. I need more clients. I don't understand what's happening. So what do you do with them? How do you work with them when it comes to business?
Well, the first thing I do is I take a look at the chart just to see what's the timing, because sometimes it's a matter of timing. And then I also look at and the timing is both external and internal. Because as you well know, mindset is everything. And we have social cultural conditioning. And if you were taught that money is bad, and if you were taught that spiritual people don't charge money, and if you were taught that asking for things makes you greedy, then it doesn't matter. Your Venus, which you just mentioned, it's what attracts things to it. It's the great magnet. Well, magnets work in 2 ways. They can attract, but they can also repel. And so if your social cultural conditioning is in the way of you using your natural superpowers, as you said, then you're going to be struggling. And I know this from experience. So I've worked this work too. So I look at timing, and then we investigate how to work on the inside so things start reflecting on the outside, because it is as above, so below, but it's also as within, so without. And so it's 2 processes. I also look at the business model because I am a business strategist and coach. I started life as a political analyst working for multinationals before I ever became an astrologer. That's what I did out of college. in the 90s. And and what I did is I would look to see if it was good to invest directly or franchise, or was the area stable enough. And so business is one of my interests, although I was also raised to believe it was bad. You know, we get these competing ideas and makes a split vibration, and it just discombobulates and disempowers us. So what I do is I work with people to kind of undiscombobulate them, to recombobulate them. And so we look at the business model. Are they just doing a standard model that doesn't work for them? Do they think they need to be everywhere? Do they need to write a book? Why do you need a book? You know, do you really need the book? Some people, 100%, they do. Other people, no. Some people need to be on camera whether they like it or not. I'm one of those.
Right.
I hate being on camera. I'm a Scorpio freaking rising. I don't like people seeing me.
Right.
But that Leo midhaven says the only way you're going to reach your ambitions is if people see you. And I'm like, oh, come on. I'm a four-eyed freakosaurus. What are you talking about? I got beat up in school for this stuff, for being a nerd. Guess what? People like nerds. You know, it's our time.
I love that. Yes. And
Mhm,
because I was for 20 years in radio in Los
mhm,
Angeles and New York, and I remember having that conversation with myself of I need to get on video. And
mhm.
I was like, but I'm radio. I like to be behind the scenes. I
Right,
like to be in my pajamas, in the
right.
studio. I don't want people to see me. I don't
Just
want to be judged.
get pretty pajamas.
I
That's my
love
solution, right?
those are little stars, and
They are in planets.
where'd you
So
get those pajamas?
nasty gal,
Nasty gal.
nasty
Oh,
gal. My
those
daughter sent it to me. My daughter's my stylist.
I
So
love it. I love
yeah.
it. Yeah, you're right, because you do, and this is something that I tell a lot of my, especially with coaches, like life coaches and
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
transformational wellness coaches,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
they say, but I don't want to. I can write, and I can
Mm-hmm.
communicate with my audience through my
Mm-hmm.
website. And I said, but
Mm-hmm.
if you're asking somebody to give cold card hard cash, if you're
Right.
asking people to pay you, they
Mm-hmm.
need to either you need to be relatable to them, but they also
Yes.
need to look in your eyes, and they
Yes.
need to know your sincerity, and they need to know that
Yes.
you're trustworthy. And that's where
Yeah.
video comes in, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Because
Absolutely.
they'll
Mhm.
know right away if you're like shifty eyed, like,
Right. Right. Well, and you end up with better quality clients too,
yes,
you know.
yes,
And there's a lot of disingenuous business advice out there, you know, that tell that because the way people are sometimes. And so it's important to know your own strengths and your own skill sets. And yeah, if you're a better writer than you are on camera, which I'm a vocalist by training, like from youth, and I was great at voiceover. But I was forced to teach 300 students streaming in 2013 when I worked for an online business school, because they said, wow, you're really great at presentations. You can teach streaming. I'm like, I don't like to be on camera. And they're like, too bad. We're giving you 300 students. I was like, okay. And so I made like 100 takes, and I hated every one, and I cried because I'm a Cancer. And when I chilled out, I asked myself, who do you want to be like? Who do you want to emulate? Why are you not happy? You got to ask yourself the tough questions. And given I have a Cancer Mercury as well, what I wanted was people to know I care. And so I went, Mr. Rogers,
yeah, yes, yes,
who better? And so I was like, well, when he looked at the camera, he was seeing you. You know, so that's what I started pretending to do. So you have to find vehicles, and everybody's going to have their own way through their own chart. And yeah, sometimes it's video, sometimes it's audio. You can still lean in. I do video a lot, but I have an audio podcast that doesn't have a video element.
yes, exactly.
You know?
And I think like what you said is, find that beat or that niche
Mm-hmm.
that you feel empowered in, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's
Yeah.
extremely
Fine.
important.
Yeah.
For the longest time too, like I dreamt of having a book, but the process of it, I thought I had to have a smoking jacket and a typewriter and like a bottle of gin, and just it was
Right.
just my idea of what writing a book was just very big. And I
Mm-hmm.
didn't want to take on such a big task. I thought it was
Mm-hmm.
overwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was just this weird situation where I met this one person and it was like, oh, you should write a book. And I said, well, yes, I do want to write a book. But it just seems like such a daunting process. Well, what happened is I got to write an itty bitty book.
Mm-hmm.
And we're talking itty bitty book.
Mm-hmm.
But this itty bitty book of 35 pages became my vehicle, your amazing itty bitty podcast book, the top 15 reasons why you need to tap into the power and profits of podcasting. And I hit it at such a time when it was at the height of people going, I want a podcast. What is a podcast? I want a podcast. Yes. And it became number 1 in Australia and the US. And that book, that opens doors for me. Right? It establishes, especially a best-selling book, establishes you as an expert in your field, so that if I want to get interviewed for whatever, or I want to go after a client, a big client or something like that, I have that sort of just as a backup, right? So they also know that I follow through.
Yes.
Because in order to write a book and in order to market it and do all that good stuff, you have to follow through.
100%.
So it's sort of like getting your degree, a job hunter or someone who's looking for talent is going to go, did you finish school? Did you get the degree? It's not so much that they're going to pay you more based on that. It's that you finished it and you followed through.
Yeah. You jumped the hoops.
Yes.
And you can follow a process. Yeah, exactly. And so sometimes people need help with those things, and so either referring out to coaches that deal with that, because there are some really good people who have good writing programs, or like you've got your podcast program. I like help what my superpower is: revenue models and revenue streams, low overhead, high return. I like helping people make money, because money can be part of the spiritual process. And I know people don't like that idea, but we need to understand it's very, very important moving into the future. It's very, very important. I can't emphasize it enough as we move towards the Pluto and Aquarius era, because we're not in it yet. We're winding down the Pluto and Capricorn era, as you will find out come June when Pluto slams back into Capricorn. I'm here for it. I'm here for the tea. It's going to be brilliant. But if we don't learn to take our own futures into our hands and work and collaborate with other people, it's going to be very difficult moving forward. And so people need to understand that money isn't bad. It's kind of inert. That would be like saying a table saw is bad.
Right. Right.
Yeah. But damn that table saw.
But like you said earlier, we have these and even though on the outside you could be however 30, 40, 50 years old and saying, of course I want to be successful. Of course I want to have funds so that I can have a stable home and time to go with my family on vacation. Of course I want to be sick. But it's that little 5-year-old kid who saw mommy and daddy arguing over the checkbook, or at tax time, the shoebox came out with the receipts and it was like, and those early years, how we viewed money or the lack of money.
Yes.
Right. I think having a poverty mindset is probably one of the biggest obstacles that people that want, especially those that want to have their own business, their own coaching business or consulting. I think that's it. And especially those in the personal development and spirituality realm.
Yes.
We're talking
100%.
Healers, just really gifted, really gifted people in that realm.
Psychics, intuitives, healers, other astrologers. And I had it too. And it was less from my youth, although some of it goes back to that. But because because I married into wealth in my first marriage and I lived a very privileged lifestyle in the Middle East, but came from a working class background and sat at tables with billionaires and sociopaths who made a very unfortunate economic decisions. I would lecture them at 20 when I was 25. I'd be like, you realize you just host that economy and you're going to lose money in the long run? And I'd break it down and they're like, oh, they don't think about it. They don't. There's no thought in it. They're not evil geniuses. They're privileged people who really don't have any more clue of what they're doing than you and me. And to me, that's way scarier than a evil genius. But when I saw what we did in the developing world collectively through the current system, I knew I was part of the problem and I couldn't find a solution, which is hell for someone who is of good heart. And so I went, screw money. And I paid a lot of money to undo that intentional block. It's one thing to have an unconscious block. It's another one to intentionally set the block. Yes. And so that's something I've learned to work with people through their astrology chart is where they're most likely to attract income in. And money driven is very small percentage of people. It could be you want experiences and money is just one of the ways that can happen, but it might be through experiences. You gain connections, money, attention, which you need, positive experiences and the resources come to you. You might get something given to you that takes you to the next step, even if you don't have the money to do it. Somebody might grant you a free trial of a software or something that takes you to that next little jump to build the confidence to understand if you're not that jerk now, you're never going to be that jerk.
Right.
It's kind of that simple. So that's how I kind of work with people is to I look at the second house, which is not just the house of finances, it's the house of resources. Love can be a resource.
Yes. Yes.
And not necessarily romance, but acceptance. And we got to give it here. Like everybody says it, right? You got to give it to you first before you can match that energy. So if you are busy telling the story of, I'm not qualified enough, I'm not famous enough. I used to have the story of I needed somebody famous to help me be seen. Yeah. And what's very, very funny, I thought that for years and I finally gave up on it and I got big on TikTok kind of quickly in 2020. And I didn't even go on there to build an audience. That was the funny part. And then all of a sudden, lockdowns ended. I won't say COVID's done because COVID's not done. It's just they're done putting regulations in. Mm-hmm. We have Saturn in Pisces. It's not done. It ain't done. It ain't over till it's over. It ain't over. But in 2022, I kind of slowed down on the growth because the urgency had died down and I was busy with my clients but I was still growing. And I'm like, I'm not making very much content. How am I still growing? And then one day I saw a blue checkmark person say, this is a real spiritual mentor because I was giving a reassuring message. And it was freaking John Edward.
Oh,
the
really?
Psychic. Yeah. Who is now my friend, which is really weird. But I didn't need that to grow.
Right.
By the way, he's just as nice as he looks.
Oh.
He helps a lot of people.
That's good to hear.
But don't reach out to him for it. He'll help you if he sees it, Yeah. I was startled and embarrassed because I didn't respond accordingly. I don't see well, as you can tell, and I didn't see who it was. I was like, oh, thanks.
Right.
And then I went back. Wait a minute, who was that? Right. Oh no, really? Thank you. So, but so isn't it funny that the universe will prove to us that thing you thought you needed isn't what you needed? It will happen when you're already in that direction.
Yes. Yes. It's almost like that thing of wanting or needing is keeping you from
Yep.
Because it's like the universe is also saying, well, we'll just keep you in the wanting mode and the needing mode.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
that's the energy you're feeding off of it, is
Mm-hmm.
exactly. And
Mm-hmm.
what I find is, so many people that I work with, so many clients that I work with, and it doesn't matter how talented they are and what they've
Right.
accomplished. So many of them have that imposter syndrome, right? That thing of, well, who wants to listen to me? Who
Mm-hmm.
who wants to hear from, my greatest examples of folks who I've just like blown away by are people who are extremely gifted. I have one client who's 75, 76 years old, a master Reiki healer, a
Mm-hmm.
hypnotherapist of, 30, 40 years, something like that. And she had a business, a local business in Los Angeles. So, but
Mm-hmm.
that's all how people knew. It was like word of mouth, and you
Mm-hmm.
had to go see her. And during the whole COVID lockdown thing, she was like, businesses, hey,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and she said, you know what, I think I want to do a podcast because I can reach people. And I said, if
Mm-hmm.
you work with
Mm-hmm.
me, you're going to get a podcast, but you're also going to get a YouTube channel.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so she said, okay. And here's 76-year-old lady. I love her. She's from Brooklyn,
I love
and
that.
she's got that Brooklyn accent. And she did the training. She worked with me for those 4 weeks. After that, she had her show. She's gone on now. I don't even know if she's got like 80 different episodes. She's interviewed Pat Benatar, you
Oh,
know, all,
cool.
all these people, but she's sharing her wisdom,
Mm-hmm.
her beautiful spirit. She's
Mm-hmm.
sharing it with people that normally would never ever get to
Mm-hmm.
hear from her,
Mm-hmm.
you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
And that,
Yeah.
to me, as a teacher, as a coach, because I'm really a teacher, but
Mm-hmm.
that
Of
for me
course.
is the greatest feeling in the world, that she now
Yeah.
gets to reach people in all different countries, all different places.
Right.
And
Yeah.
before it was just, you had to find her in Calabasas. you know?
Wow. Yeah. Right. Exactly. And imposter syndrome is ego. That's all it is.
Yeah. Yes, it is.
And I keep trying to teach people virtue is one of the biggest sides of your shadow self that you can ever examine. The need to be a good person or seen as a good person, the need to be seen as virtuous or a paragon of virtue. Um, that's all ego, because you don't need to appear any certain way for people to know if you're real or not real, good or not good. You don't need that. You can just be you and offer the highest level of service. And yes, we do put on some makeup. Sometimes I don't, but I'm putting on a good first impression, right? My patrons do, they see me with my hair upside down, end of the day, food on my t-shirt, because I'm a Cancer. Uh, the food, there's going to be leftovers. This is going to happen.
Right.
They see me raw. But if you haven't met me, I'm probably not going to do that because that's social skills, right? But you don't have to pretend to be anything you're not.
Yeah.
You don't need to be. You are already special enough. And just like you're gifting people the chance to be out there, I'm gifting people the knowledge of it's real, it's true, it's not, you're not making it up, you're not crazy. These things you've been thinking about, dreaming about, wondering about, enjoying since you were a small child, often, because there'll be a link.
Yes.
That's
Right.
all right there in your chart. And then I try to kick them out the door to I'll help them craft a business model, but then go to the experts who can help you build that thing well.
And take action,
And take action. Exactly.
because
Don't
things
just write
don't
it.
just happen magically. You have to actually take action.
Wait a minute. So if you just put up a website, people don't just show up at
Yes.
it?
No, they don't.
What?
Yeah, no, that's my favorite thing, is like, you have to put things in motion in
Mm-hmm.
order for those things to start happening. Um, I was like, to a friend of mine, I was like, a lot of people who just start beginning their coaching career or their consulting or anything service
Yeah.
providing, I said, they're not going to find you in your basement of your house or in your home office. People are not walking down the street, knocking on doors going, excuse me, do you happen to be a coach? Can you help me? I said, no, you need to let people know what it is that you do. And like, what I like about what you're doing is also something that I do. I know that I will not work on my car, right? If something's clunky, I'll take it to a mechanic. And it's the same thing when I'm with my clients, is that I'll refer them out to people. And because I'll say, I go, do you have a website? You're a coach, you're a life coach. Do you have a website? No, I don't. I say, you need a website because people need to know how they can book a service with you or find out what kind of coach you are. So I'll refer them to a web designer that I know and I trust, right? I'll refer them out because can I build a website? Yeah. Do I want to? No. I like to stay in my lane. Right. That makes sense, right? So I do appreciate that you turn people to others to get the stuff that they need to get done. A lot of times people too, there's this scarcity mindset, and it's that thing of like, oh, I don't want to, I just need to have this client and they're my client and that's it. And they won't. And that model is dead. Also, the idea of going it alone is it's fine, but
it's dying with Pluto and Capricorn.
Yes.
Pluto and Aquarius demands that we integrate with not like-minded, like-hearted people.
Right.
Because like-minded means we all do the same thing.
Yes.
But like-hearted means we can have a diverse range of viewpoints and skills, but we meet where it matters most, and we form alliances to give us a safety net, a true safety net. So people you trust, it's just small, and then they're interconnected with other groups of people. And that's what we're going to be building for the next 20 some years. Once Aquarius sets itself November 24th of 2024, after the elections.
Of course.
I'm not going to say what I think about it, but anyway, it's like, it's going to be a while. But even through that wildness, we can give ourselves these rafts that are buoyant in times of turbulence. And so that's honestly why I wanted to interview on other people's podcasts. I wanted to meet people so that I can connect with and give my clients access to, because I have amazing clients. They are so cool. And I was like, well, they need more resources too. And I do have people I refer out to, but more is better. So,
and what you said is proven in the pudding. It's I would say the last year and a half, 2 years, probably two, I have felt compelled to do co-ventures, right? And for people, they're like, what is co-venture? Like a co-adventure? Well, it is in some respect, but it's working. So my thing is that, yes, I can give to my clients, and I give 1,000%, right? Fully devoted, fully focused, laser focused, and I give them all my goodies. But I said, if I can give my audience or my clients, not just me and my own brilliance, but I can bring in someone or even more than one person and give them their brilliance and my brilliance together. It's like Superman is great or Batman is great by themselves.
Right.
But it's when they're in a team, like in the superhero team is when they defeat evil, right?
Right. Exactly.
Just Superman, because one little drop of kryptonite and you're toast. But when you have all those other those superheroes put together, you're creating something new as well. Create something that you could not create on your own.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
Oh, I just got goosebumps on that.
Yeah, me too. I did too. I was just like, woo!
Yes,
it wasn't a hot flash. Yay. So
it's important, isn't it? And it does feel like that's where we're going as well.
Yes, it is. It's where we have to go.
Talk about that.
The future.
Yes,
because
please.
That's the other thing I do. How I got people's attention is because I started life as a political analyst. obviously I do mundane astrology. It's not what I was forced to study it by my teacher, who's in Australia, actually. He's not a well-known astrologer. He just adopted me. I was in the Middle East. It was illegal to study, blah, 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 but it was the internet. It was the 90s. I didn't even have books. I had 20-page emails from this guy. But he made me learn both when it was very unpopular to be a mundane astrologer because it was just not done. We're not fortune tellers, they would say. Well, it's not fortune telling, it's forecasting. You're
Yes.
looking at, because as a political analyst, I had to do that too. And you look at possibility and probability. And so that's how I became known. It was 2020 was a very rocky year. 2021, we still are rocky, but my predictions are exceptionally accurate. And I cannot like someone and still see they will have something fortunate happen to them. And I can like someone and see that there is something not fortunate potentially coming down the pike when we look at politics, right? So a lot of those were very accurate. Like I called the indictment a year before it happened, to the month. Now, March 30th, I was sitting there going, come on. I called the month. Come on. 2 days to spare. I'm like, boy, I don't want to call a month again ever. It takes a lot of guts to make a public prediction, because people are waiting for you to fail.
Right.
And I was like, well, I'm going to stand by it. But I'm not going to lie. I was like, if this happens on April 1st, I'm going to be so mad. But what we have going forward is still a lot of economic turbulence. And I do urge, I don't know when this is going live, but May 16th, Jupiter enters Taurus into a square with Pluto in Aquarius. Squares are always a time of decisions. You have option A and option B. Neither one works real well because they hit a pressure point. That pressure point is the solution, which would be option C, which most people are resisting in some way, shape, or form, and it works out for the best in the long run. But in the immediate time, it's very uncomfortable. That's why people don't like that feeling. Jupiter in Taurus is about it's financial matters, it's security matters. No, we're not going to lose banks. We're not going to lose security. We're not going to lose currency. But we will see a food crisis, especially in developing nations. And since you're in Australia, I'm looking at the Southern Hemisphere very seriously because the eclipses are visible in the Eastern Hemisphere. And those are the spring eclipses we've had. Those are visible in the Eastern Hemisphere of the globe, especially in the South Quadrant, which is Australia, Micronesia, Asia Pacific region, New Zealand as well. Harvest may not be good. And so you want to be growing what you can as you can. You can grow indoors. That lovely pink light behind me that you see there, that glow is not just ambient lighting. That is, I live in Southern California where our weather has been really weird. And so I have a little hydroponic garden with a cucumber growing in my apartment, right? And it's lovely. And its name is Carl. I named my plants Carl the cucumber. You can grow your microgreens. You can grow leafy greens. If you're in the United States listening to this, understand California had floods. We've lost the nut crops. We've lost a lot of the fruit. They're not talking about this in the news. But you don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure out that the floods weren't a great thing. Right. And so the rice crop got messed up in 2022. And it won't catch up for this year. So rice is scarce worldwide. So there's going to be food insecurity. So don't hoard, please, but make sure your pantries are covered. I always say if you buy a little extra and you don't really need it, give it to a food bank. Give it to a food bank. There's a lot of hungry kids.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you have a little extra, give it to a neighbor. If you join a community garden, join a CSA. This is our basic living. Climate change, it's not even a debate. Okay. I'm again, cancer. I don't care how it started. I want it taken care of. I don't care who started it.
Yeah.
I don't care if it's a natural cycle. I don't care if it's a man-made contributed cycle. I don't care if it's a blend. I don't care. It's here.
Yeah.
It's here.
Yeah.
And it's impacting everyone, especially. And then we're going to see more conflicts come up in developing nations. Like we already see what's going on in Sudan. And I know this isn't high vibe talk, but it's reality.
No, it absolutely needs to be
You
talked
know,
about.
and so how we deal with these things is if you have the privilege to secure your own self, get that oxygen mask on while you're able to breathe, then you can put it on someone else for a moment, help them lift up. And we can't do everybody all at the same time. But if each one of us links up in those like-hearted groups, then we are able to leverage that collective ability. And that's what we're going to have to do moving forward through 2024, 2025. And it's going to be very disruptive over the next couple of years. 2026, 2027, more disruption. Because unfortunately, humans don't do things the easy way.
Right.
We learn through crisis.
Right.
And those of us who are teachers, and you can call yourself a coach, a writer, a speaker, a singer, an actor, teachers come in all shapes and sizes. We are here not to lead large and in charge. That's so passe, but to gather together, you know?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
And again, because we have that for so long, it's been ingrained in us, that go it alone type of mentality, you know, all individual boxes. Right. I thought about this not too long ago, where I was like, isn't it interesting? Like if you did a survey on my little street here, everybody has their own vacuum cleaner. Everybody has their own lawnmower. Everybody has their own whatever it is, right? And I go, wouldn't it be interesting if you just had one vacuum cleaner, everybody got to use it, got to clean it. You got to, of course, like don't leave it full of weird, shit. You got to clean it.
No kitty litter. Yeah.
No kitty litter. But then you would just have to have one, and everybody could use it. Right. And I know it sounds, people are like, well, that's ridiculous, Christine. I want to have my own vacuum cleaner because
that's because they've been trained to have conspicuous consumption because it's better to control people with.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Yep. We're seeing a rise, and I don't know about Australia, but here in the States, we're seeing a rise in kids not being able to move out, or even parents not being able to move out. My daughter and I are actively working on building a business together. It's a little separate from this. It'll involve both of our passions. That will help us grow forward. And then we're going to buy property together because it's going to get it anyway.
Yes, right.
Right?
Yes.
And I was like, well, we're adults. We no longer try to kill each other. So why not? We actually like each other now. It happens.
Oh, that's
folks.
great. Does it happen?
It can happen. Indeed. She'll be 30, but, but but people aren't having the choices now, but they feel like they're losers for living at home. And it's like, human beings have always done that. That's the most natural state.
Well, and also it's ridiculous, the cost of things. I mean, here in Australia, see, because I'm from California, I'm from Los Angeles, and I know California is expensive,
right?
But I'm like, here, I'm like, oh, I wish for those good old California days,
Right.
because here $1 million home is, you can't find one. I mean, it would be a crappy little like studio condo type thing.
It's pretty much getting there like that here too.
Is it?
Yeah, it might be a former crack house.
Yes. So
maybe if it's in the middle of nowhere with a private dirt road, you might get lucky, And
I went the other day to go shopping. I was like, well, I got to get some things. I need to get some cat food and some kids' food and things like this and this. I was like, $430.
Yeah.
I was like, what did I buy?
Right. Yeah.
Did I buy a human?
Inflation?
Did I buy another human?
Well, and inflation's going to continue to rise.
I'm
sorry. Now, what I'm suggesting to people is, as you can, now don't pull your money out of the bank. Don't do a bank run. Commercial banks will be okay. retail banks will be okay. Commercial banks are not going to be okay. Private equity companies are not going to be okay. They're already not okay. Commercial real estate tanks before residential real estate. But remember, the banks are going to hold off loans because it's risky right now.
Right.
Okay. So it'll be harder to get those loans. Inflation will continue. So don't pull out your savings entirely. Okay. Unless your intuition tells you otherwise, but intuition is not anxiety. It'll be like, you should pull that money out. It won't have a fear feeling to it. But I do say take a little emergency cash out each week and put it in a little envelope. Why? You could have a payment system down. Okay. I keep a little gas money in my car, right? I've had to use it when the payment system wasn't working and they were only taking cash. It also is like a little savings you forget about. You have that little extra cush. Keep some of that just for your own. It's kind of a sense of well-being, a little safety net. I know I've got $50 in a drawer. I know I've got, notice, I'm saying it's $50, $100. If you don't have a lot, $5. Save your change in a change jar. If there's recycling for bottles or cans, do that. But austerity measures aren't always the best thing. I mean, obviously, shop the sales. Buy a little extra each week because food will continue to rise in price, and food is not factored into inflation. Because in I think it was 81 or 82, the economist in the Reagan administration said, and I quote, "It messes up the numbers." I'm nonpartisan, but really, as somebody who deals with data, I was like, we don't get to remove data because it's inconvenient.
Well, you know, the whole thing is you and I in the sound box are
right.
We can talk forever on that,
right.
because also right. I said when people go, I need to take a loan out, and the interest rates are so high. I said, but here's the interesting thing is the banks don't have the money. No, they're charging you interest on something that they don't even have. Well, yes, they do. They loan you the money so that you can buy. I said they're digits in your bank account number. It's a program, right? It's a digit. It's not an actual value. It's just a digit, and then they're charging you interest on things that they don't have. Because also, if everybody said, I walked into your bank right now and said, I would like that, whatever I have in there, $100,000, $200,000. I would like that right now. They don't have it. It's not there.
No, and that's what causes a bank to fail.
Yes.
And so that's why I say don't run on the bank.
No, but the whole banking system is a hoop.
It's an illusion. Yeah, it's an illusion. But with the illusion we kind of have to live with. Yes. And so if you keep some cash on hand, you're going to be better off, especially in grocery shopping. And it's funny because people always want the big picture, but I'm like, we all have to eat.
Yes.
And when I say the world will have a food crisis, I'm not kidding, and I'm not overblowing it. I've been encouraging people for years to grow their food. And again, you don't need a big garden. Even if you're just growing some leafy greens, you can always add to it. You don't have to have a green thumb even. That's all disempowering logic. Okay. It's not real. Okay. Make friends with somebody, and in a neighborhood, only one person needs to grow zucchini. Okay. And if you know, you know. All right. And so if you go to the store and you see like your favorite tomato sauce is on sale, or your favorite canned good or dried good is on sale, buy two.
Yeah.
Buy two, because it's going to cost more next week. So buy two while it's on sale. Buy the loss leaders. Hell, I did this in the late 90s as a single mom with 2 kids and no money.
Preach it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I like the idea of growing. I do, even though I kill plants, but I like the idea of growing your own little veggie garden type thing, because also the energy that you put, because it's your plant, it's your garden, it's your lettuce that you're growing, or your zucchinis that you're growing.
Right.
It has your energy attached to it. And so it's actually something that is really good for you, because it's got your imprint on it. Now
Yep.
I don't want to get too woo woo, but that's I know because I've experienced it,
Mhm,
right?
mhm.
You can and you can
Well,
talk to your
everything
plants.
has an intelligence,
Yes, especially plants.
yeah, absolutely. And you can do co-creative gardening where you work with it. I had a brown thumb until I learned how to do that. And that was, I don't know, sometime in like 1999 or something, long time ago. But I have, I never got to grow citrus. I grew up in the Pacific Northwest, and then I lived overseas. And then when I moved back, I moved back to the Pacific Northwest. And so I've only been in California since I moved here right before the lockdowns.
Oh, okay.
2019. I was going back and forth, but I hadn't lived here. And so I have my first citrus fruit, and they actually survived the winter in spite of me. And Tammy the tangerine and Lucy lemon, and my followers know about them.
And
I
then
made
they're friends
I
with.
made marmalade.
Are they friends with Carl the cucumber?
Not yet, because Carl's indoors. They're outdoors. Indoors does not work for them. I tried. I did not have the right lighting, but I did get to make my own marmalade. And I had always wanted to. It's really easy. If I would have known how easy it was, I would have done it before. Knowing how to do these skills, people say, are we heading towards another depression? Honeys, we've been in one since about 2008.
Yes.
My grandmother was like, preaching it. She passed away in 2010, but and she lived to be a good age. She was 92. I was very fortunate to have her as long as I did, but she was very upset. She had been, she was the first female manager of of adult and family services, which is now like DSHS in Oregon, in a county, when women weren't. This is the 60s. She started Dollars for Disasters when there was a big flood in Clackamas County, Oregon, when they didn't have programs like that. She got people to donate business attire so single moms and other women who were disadvantaged could get clothes for interviews in the 60s. She hired single mothers in the late 60s and 70s. Unheard of. Nobody would touch them. She fought and she watched everything she worked for get dismantled.
Oh, she must have been pissed.
She was angry and devastated. And she was saying, Laurie, I worked so hard and I should have fought harder. I should have been louder. I said, Grandma, you fought pretty hard and you were pretty loud. Yeah. Maybe it's time people realize they have to shout collectively. You raised your kids and your grandkids to be involved. We're all involved. Our kids are involved. Rest easy. You did good work, but she didn't feel it. She said, Laurie, it's worse than when I was a kid in the Depression, if you look at the numbers. But see, we're not in black and white.
Right. Right.
And people have electricity and they have, but the numbers are worse. And so we have to understand we're already there, but people made money in the Depression too.
Yes. Yes. And I think that I think that one good thing too about this conversation is that we do need to look to each other,
Yes.
in business and in life, and we need to start relying on each other and and talking to that neighbor that we've never spoken to before,
yes.
or at least starting to get together and bring that prosperity back.
Yes.
But together, rising together.
Collectively. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
I keep saying the way forward is communicate, collaborate, and play.
Yes.
You can't take it so seriously. It's a shoot show.
But it's our shoot show.
Right. And we might as well, what are you going to do? You can laugh or you can cry. I would rather laugh my way through it.
Yes.
And yes, there's moments of somberness, but if we come together, we get through this thing really well. And I think in 20 years or so, once we get through the bumpiest parts, we have a chance at kind of like a Star Trek-like feel in our society. And I don't mean we'll be in outer space. That's just delusional and trying to get away from cleaning up the mess we made. But that understanding that we are a singular species.
Yes. Yes.
That lives on a tiny rock floating in space. And it's a privilege to be on the rock.
Yes. Well, it's a privilege to know you, Laurie. It's
absolutely right back at you.
And when it gets really funky, I want you on my ship.
Right back at you. I was so excited.
Cucumbers.
Right? Yes. Good old Carl.
Laurie, I could talk to you forever. You are welcome back anytime to Out of the Box with Christine. Let's tell people how they can reach you. I know the most direct way is through your website, laurierivers.com. That's LAURIERIVERS.com. We'll put a link in the show notes, but then also you have a little something that you'd like to offer our listeners as well.
Yes. 20% off of
Beautiful.
readings and or classes, because I've got natal chart foundations coming up, and then I'll have Read Like a Pro, which is intermediate level astrology, setting you up for the next level to see if you want to become a professional or not, like getting deeper in.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, and that's a 14-week session. Now that'll be up soon, but that save 20% is for them. It'll work for either readings or classes, and you can register for those at wokeastrology.com, which is linked through Laurie Rivers as well. Because I have a little constellation of astrologers. I apprenticed people under me. So we are a constellation together. So you can get readings with them for 20% off. But you do that with save 20%, and you can put the little percent sign with it.
I will put that in the show notes too, so people can take advantage of that. Thank you so much. Again, thank you so much. And anytime you need anything from me, you just give a holler. Say, hey, Christine, please talk to me about this. I would love to. Absolutely.
I love that. Well, thank you so much. Such a pleasure.
Absolutely. My guest today has been the amazing Laurie Rivers, who is a consulting astrologer. She can talk to you about all kinds of things that are coming up. If you want to know what's coming up in your world, and also how to navigate your business based on your wonderful astrology chart and your superpowers that they are, you can check her out at laurierivers.com. We'll have a link in the show notes. And I want to thank you, wonderful listeners and viewers on YouTube. Thank you so much for tuning in today. If this resonated with you, and if you want to share the show, which you should, if you want to share it, please do. Someone that you love may really get something out of it. And you never know. You gotta share though. You gotta get it out there. If you want more information about the show, you can go to outoftheboxwithchristine.com. And if you want more information about me, you can go to christineblosdale.com. All those links will be in the show notes. Until next time, as I always say, remember to think outside that damn box. Bye for now.